Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Okay. All right. Hi, guys. You Dutch people. So I did a video. It was a video about just like an overview of Dutch stuff. And it got a good amount of views from people from the Netherlands. And so I think I'll do another video about you guys. So let's go. Dutch Monarchs family tree. Original link to the video, top of the description. My name is Connor. If you are new, hello. Right below the original link will be the link to the Discord. We'd love to have you. Just click on it. Send you right over there. Let's go.
Family tree of the...
Useful charts. Awesome channel. And if you are not ready to learn, there is the door. Home ec is down the hall. You're in the wrong class. Phones away. See Napoleon. Even if you're watching on one, toss it.
Today I'm going to show you the family tree of the Dutch monarchy, which is one of the newer monarchies in Europe. We're going to start up here with William the Silent, the founder of the House of Orange-Nassau, and trace the line all the way down to the current monarch of the Netherlands, King Willem-Alexander.
Okay, so William of Orange is the silent William. Okay. So is that when they broke from the Spanish?
So we'll be monarch of the Netherlands, King Willem-Alexander. So we'll be looking at both the leaders of the Dutch Republic before the monarchy was established, as well as the Dutch kings and queens after the creation of the Netherlands. But before we get to the family tree, let's first look at a map of Europe in the 16th century. So this is what Europe looked like around the year 1560.
Savoy, France, 1560. France. The Netherlands, is that going all the way down to here?
That's just after the point when the great Habsburg Emperor Charles V, who had been both Holy Roman Emperor and the King of Spain, stepped down and divided his possessions in two. He gave the crown of Spain to his son Philip, and he gave the title of Emperor to his younger brother Ferdinand. This left the Netherlands in an interesting position. They were still part of the Holy Roman Empire, just like they had been for centuries, but because of the way certain titles had been passed down, they actually came under the direct control of the King of Spain. Which brings us to this guy, William the Silent. William came from a German noble family.
Interesting. Okay. So that's where I always wondered, I'm like, how is this place up here, surrounded by Germany? Obviously, Germany's not a thing. But before I knew more about history, I'm thinking, all right, they were once part of Spain. You got Germany and France and England here. Somehow Spain had control. So that answers it. It's just titles with the Holy Roman Empire. That's oversimplifying.
Brings us to this guy, William the Silent. William came from a German noble family known as the House of Nassau, Nassau being located approximately here. But he also ended up inheriting a small principality in what is now France called Orange, so his main title ended up being Prince of Orange. Anyway, William of Orange was appointed stadtholder of several Dutch provinces. A stadtholder was kind of like a governor who ran things on behalf of the feudal lord, who in this case was Philip II, King of Spain. Now remember, this was the year 1560, which was when the Protestant Reformation was in full bloom. Calvinism was becoming popular in the Netherlands, but Spain, of course, was strongly Catholic. Eventually, this led to the Dutch Revolt, in which the Netherlands tried to separate from Spain and become...
For some reason, I thought the Protestant Reformation was closer to the 30 Years' War. So when did Protestantism become a thing? Was it at the Reformation? So there were no Protestants before the Reformation? If you guys, anyone who knows that?
Independent. William The Netherlands tried to separate from Spain and become independent. William the Silent sided with the rebels, and in 1581 they were successful. The northern provinces became the Dutch Republic, also known as William the Silent tried to separate from Spain, led to the Dutch Revolt, in which the Netherlands tried to separate from Spain and become independent. William the Silent sided with the rebels, and in 1581 they were successful. The northern provinces became the Dutch Republic, also known as the United Provinces, and the southern provinces remained under the control of Spain.
So are Flemish people from Flanders? So I know, so just like with the UK, there's a lot of stuff like the UK, England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, then you get the British Isles, the United Kingdom, but so here, so there are a bunch of names like Dutch, Flemish, Flanders, Holland, Netherlands. So is that where Flemish people are from, Flanders?
And later Austria. William remained under the control of Spain and later Austria. William the Silent became the de facto leader of the new Dutch Republic, and after his death, the leadership was passed on to his descendants, just like it would be in a monarchy. But William and his early descendants were not actually monarchs. They held the title Prince of Orange, but in the Netherlands, they were officially stadholders or governors. This would eventually change, but we'll get to that in a moment. We're now ready to go back to the family tree chart.
So guys, so I'm the king of Spain. So before the revolt happened, so for a stadtholder, I'm the king of Spain, so I'm in charge of everything. All right, I'm like the president. I have to dumb this down to American politics so I can understand it. So, not president. So I'm the king of Spain, and all of these are my territories. I can't keep a check on everything always, and so I'm going to have governors across my empire who answer to me but can do the work, so I don't have to always do it, and they're called stadholders.
But we'll get to that in a moment. Or governors. This would eventually change, but we'll get to that in a moment. We're now ready to go back to the family tree chart. So here's William the Silent. 3 of his sons served as Prince of Orange after him, but the first 2, Philip William and Maurice, did not have any children, so the line actually continued through his 3rd and youngest son, Frederick Henry. Frederick Henry was then followed by his son, William II of Orange. It was during the tenure of William II that in 1648...
Okay, but when someone says, who is William of Orange, it's this guy, right? It's not this guy.
The war with Spain came to an end, and Spain officially recognized Dutch independence, even though in practical terms, the United Provinces had been independent since 1581. William II was also important because he married into the British royal family. His wife Mary was the sister of King Charles II and King James II. Together, they had one child, the future King William III. Now, when William III was...
I shouldn't be surprised at this point. I'm like, oh, married your cousin. But I mean, in terms of, I shouldn't be surprised anymore.
Born, no one expected him to become King of England and Scotland someday. His father actually died when he was still in the womb, so as soon as William was born, he became William III, Prince of Orange.
Dang.
But because he was a baby, he obviously could not become stadtholder. This allowed the more staunch Republicans to take control. Those who weren't happy with the fact that the members of the House of Orange-Nassau had basically become...
You'd think, you guys, they'd have a little bit more measures in place to protect from stuff like this. Of all the times in history where someone has, like, you'd think they'd be like, oh, remember what happened to Grandpa, or like the king 2 times ago, where his son, where he died. just why didn't they have more measures in place to protect from, yeah, you have an heir, but say you die early and your heir is still super young. Well, look at how many times there was a super young heir who just got pushed to the side or sometimes murdered because another one, obviously he's too young. And you'd think there'd be more of a thing in place, like, okay, this guy died and he's still got a really old son. We all know what happens. He tends to be pushed out of the way or killed and someone else. So let's put in measures to make sure he will be the king one day. And you'd think they'd learn or something.
Become hereditary leaders, Republicans to take control. Those who weren't happy with the fact that the members of the House of Orange-Nassau had basically become hereditary leaders. The Dutch Republic therefore went through a 22-year period in which the dominant political figure was a man named Johan de Witt. This time period coincided with the peak of Dutch power on the world scene. However, in 1672, the Dutch Republic had a year of disaster. It was attacked on all sides by foreign powers. Many people wanted to see power shift back to the Prince of Orange, which is exactly what happened. De Witt was killed by a mob, and William III was appointed stadtholder in the main provinces. A few years later, William married his cousin, the eldest daughter of the future King James II. But at this point, it was not expected that James would ever become king, let alone William. But then an interesting series of events occurred. Charles II died without an heir, making James II king. James II had converted to Catholicism after marrying his second wife, and then they eventually had a son who became heir to the throne. But England and Scotland did not want a Catholic monarchy, so they invited William and Mary to seize the throne in what has become known as the Glorious Revolution. This resulted in King James fleeing to France and his supporters becoming known as the Jacobites.
That clears up a lot of confusion I had in the video I just watched from History with Hilbert about why is the William of Orange a big figure to Northern Ireland. And I had a lot of confusion surrounding an area that he just explained right here. So that's good.
And his supporters becoming known as the Jacobites. And it also resulted in William and Mary becoming joint monarchs of both England and Scotland. So William was already William III as the Prince of Orange, because there had been two previous Williams that held that post, William the Silent and his father William II. But
his son or grandson.
Coincidentally,
oh, never mind. His father, sorry.
William the Silent and his father William II. But coincidentally, he also became William III of England, because England had also had two previous Williams. There was William the Conqueror, who was William I, and William the Conqueror's son, who was William II. But note that in Scotland, William was actually known as King William II, because Scotland had had only one previous William.
Okay, it is confusing, but it does make sense. It seems convoluted, but I guess I get the logic.
That being William the Lion. So that's the story of all the Williams. So from 1689 to 1702, William was the leader of three major countries at the same time.
I was going to say.
As Prince of Orange and stadtholder of 5 of the 7 independent Dutch provinces, he was the de facto leader of the Dutch Republic. And at the same time, he was the co-monarch of both England and Scotland. Now, had William and Mary had children, history might have gone in a very different direction.
Wait, so is Frederick the Great related to William of Orange? Through... Oh. No. He is related to King James I and VI.
instead of just the United Kingdom of gone in a very different direction. Instead of just the United Kingdom of England and Scotland, we might have seen the United Kingdom of England, Scotland, and the Netherlands.
I hate that flag. Like, I've never seen it, but I don't like it. It doesn't look good. It, like, for a second, it's like, ooh, that's kind of cool. I don't like it. It's just too much.
But that, of course, never happened. After King William III died, the thrones of England and Scotland passed to Queen Anne, because those titles were tied to his wife Mary.
So
and Anne, as the younger sister, was Mary's closest living relative. But the title of Prince of Orange passed to William's closest male relative, which was John William Friseau. You can see here that John William was also a descendant of William the Silent via a different line. Now, at this point, the Dutch Republic went through another period in which the Prince of Orange was not the primary stadtholder and national leader. This was partly due to the fact
I know
that
it might be weird, but it's true. I feel like as far as attraction goes, the pictures of Queen Anne she's kind of attractive, I think. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know.
John William was a teenager when he inherited his titles, and then he died unexpectedly at age 23. He did marry, however, and had already had a daughter, and when he died, his wife was actually pregnant with a second child. That child was a boy and went on to become Prince William IV of Orange. When William IV was in his 30s, he became the first person to be named stadtholder of all 7 provinces. Now, at this point, the Dutch Republic made it official that the House of Orange-Nassau would henceforth inherit the title automatically. Now, before we go on, I should mention 2 things. First is the fact that from John William onwards, the Dutch Prince of Orange no longer actually controlled the Principality of Orange. Not long after William III died, the actual lands associated with the title ended up going to France, which kind of made sense because they were pretty much in France anyway.
Yeah.
But the Dutch leaders kept the title, and nowadays it is used for the heir to the throne, kind of like the title Prince of Wales in the UK. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. I also want to point out another important fact about John William Friseau. John William Friseau holds the distinction of being the most recent common ancestor of every hereditary European monarchy still in existence today, and most of the former ones too. Because European royal houses intermarried so much, there are several people on this chart who over time became the common ancestor of lots of different kings and queens of
That. Oh. Okay.
of different countries. Queen Victoria is a good example of this. Queen Victoria is obviously the ancestor of Queen Elizabeth II, but she's also the ancestor of the King of Spain, the King of Norway, the King of Denmark, and the King of Sweden. However, the King of Belgium and the King of Netherlands do not descend from her.
Did the Tsar Nicholas descend from her? But
if you want to find the most recent ancestor of all the current kings and queens, that would be John William Friseau. But personally, I don't think that makes John William Friseau super special. There are plenty of other people on the chart who hold similar distinctions. For example,
No, of course that doesn't make him special. He just happens to be yeah.
George II is also the ancestor of every king and queen of Europe today. And he was born just 4 years before John William Friseau, and he himself was a king. So if we ask the question, who was the most recent common royal ancestor of every king and queen of Europe today?
Oh, his son. I hate his son. His son is awful. I don't like him.
The answer would be King George II. But I've ventured off topic. Let's get back to Dutch history. William IV died relatively young when William V was still a child. His mother, Anne, who was a British princess, served as his regent for several years, and then his grandmother and sister did as well. But eventually he took the reins of leadership. And it was during his tenure that some pretty important events occurred in nearby France. First, there was the French Revolution. And the ideas
So
of
guys,
the French...
if you ask someone in the Netherlands, one of you guys, all right, who is William of Orange? Would they be like, which one? Or would they say the first guy?
Revolution spilled over into the Dutch Republic. In fact, the French Revolution spilled over into the Dutch Republic. In fact, the Dutch had their own revolution. It's not as well known, but it was called the Batavian Revolution, Batavia being the name of one of the Germanic tribes that eventually became the Dutch. The Batavian Revolution was successful, and William V was kicked out. He had to flee to England, and the Dutch Republic was temporarily renamed the Batavian Republic. But then, of course, something else happened in nearby France. This fella over here, Napoleon Bonaparte, rose to power and ended up conquering most of Europe. He changed the Batavian Republic into the Kingdom of Holland and made one of his younger brothers the Kingdom of Europe. He changed the Batavian Republic into the Kingdom of Holland and made one of his younger brothers the puppet
Joseph?
king. That was King Louis I of Holland. Now that brings up an important point. What's the difference between Holland and the Netherlands?
I'm pretty sure, right? Like Orange, it's like and like Flanders, it's like a part of Netherlands. So it would be like saying if like everyone from Netherlands is Holland, it'd be like saying everyone in the U.S. is New England, or it's not the best example.
What is Holland?
I've been watching a lot of Seinfeld lately. It's just one of those shows that I know is really popular, but I never watched, and I've kind of been enjoying it.
What do you mean, what is it? It's a country right next to Belgium.
No, that's the Netherlands.
Holland is the Netherlands.
Then who are the Dutch?
Who are the
So
Flemish?
actually the answer is that Holland is just one small part of the Netherlands, but a lot of people use the two names interchangeably. But the only time the name
So it'd
Holland
be like calling the U.S. Texas or something.
was actually used as the official name of the country was during the time of Napoleon. Now eventually Napoleon was defeated and the map of Europe was forever changed. By that point, William V had died and had been succeeded by his son, who was originally known as William VI. But after the defeat of Napoleon, the Netherlands decided to bring back the House of Orange-Nassau and finally make the head of the house their king. So Prince William VI became King William I. And also for the first time ever, the House of Orange-Nassau also controlled the southern Netherlands as well. However, that would be short-lived because in 1830 the Belgian Revolution occurred and the southern provinces decided to get their own king and to establish the Kingdom of Belgium. They chose Prince Leopold from the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, which happens to be the same house that currently rules the United Kingdom today, although it's now known as the House of Windsor. And
didn't it change to the House of Windsor because They wanted a less German-sounding name with the World Wars.
And in Belgium, it's now known as the House of Belgium. But back to the Netherlands. I should mention that when William I became...
It's like Germany was never a big thing, so nobody cared about them having, you know, German names and all of these things. But as soon as Germany became a threat and a opponent, then it's like, okay, no, get rid of the German stuff.
King, he also gave up all of his original family lands in Nassau, Germany. In exchange, he was given Luxembourg, and therefore William I also became the first Grand Duke of Luxembourg. Luxembourg was and still is its own independent country, but at the time it was ruled in personal union with the Netherlands. William I abdicated in 1840, and his eldest son became William II.
So a lot of change happened with William I king here.
When William II died, he was followed by his eldest son, William III. William III had 3 sons with his first wife, but all 3 died before he did, and none of them had any children. Luckily, he had married a second time and had 1 more child in his old age. That child was a daughter who would go on to become Queen Wilhelmina, the longest reigning monarch in Dutch history.
She went through a hell of a period too, 1890 to 48. Jeez.
Before William III died, the constitution was changed so that a female could inherit the throne. However, this change did not occur in Luxembourg. So when William III died, the title of Grand Duke of Luxembourg passed to a junior branch of the Nassau family. Queen Wilhelmina was only 10 years old when she became queen, so initially her mother, Queen Emma, ruled as regent. Wilhelmina was queen during both World War I and World War II. During World War II, she was evacuated to London, where the Dutch government was run in exile until the end of the war. Shortly thereafter, she abdicated, and her only child became the next monarch.
And they took in Wilhelm II, right? Or didn't he go to the Netherlands after World War I?
This was
after
Queen Juliana. Interestingly, the Netherlands is the only major European country in which a ruling queen was followed by another ruling queen.
And then 3 times.
In fact, they would end up having 3 ruling queens in a row because Juliana had only daughters.
Damn, from 1890 to 2013 of female monarchs. All of them reigning
And therefore, when she abdicated in 1980, her eldest daughter became Queen Beatrix. Beatrix herself eventually abdicated in 2013, and that's when the current king, Willem Alexander, started his reign. Couple more things to note. First, the name Willem is the Dutch equivalent of the English name William. So all these
Dafoe?
Williams that we've been talking about were actually Willem.
Oh, never mind.
However, I've used the commonly used convention among English-speaking historians, which is to use the English name for historic monarchs and the name in the native tongue for the current monarchs. You can see the same thing happening here with Philip versus Philippe.
So that means once Willem of Netherlands is no longer king, he will then be known for historic purposes as William in English countries.
Of Spain. Second, I want to note that although the Dutch royal line passed through several females, they have chosen to keep the official name of their royal house, Orange Nassau. In other countries in the past, the name of the royal house would often change following the reign of a female monarch, like when the UK house name changed from Hanover to Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. But this has not and will not happen in the Netherlands, nor actually is it likely to happen in the UK in the future. It's likely that the British will stick with the name Windsor. Finally, the Dutch changed their laws in the 1980s so that males no longer take precedence over females in the line of succession. This is similar to the change that the UK made more recently in 2011. Now, this didn't actually affect anything. King William Alexander was the firstborn
Succubus. Ah.
child of
But there is an American on here, though. That's kind of cool.
King William Alexander was the firstborn child of Queen Beatrix, and he has only daughters. Therefore, the eldest daughter will inherit the throne after him. Okay, so that was the complete history of the Dutch monarchy and the House of Orange Nassau. If you'd like to buy this entire chart as a poster, it's available on my website, usefulcharts.com. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for making. I love when they say thanks for watching. Really cool video. Hope you guys are doing well. Answer my question, please, in the comments. If you're not doing well, look at me. You'll be good soon. Don't worry. Trust me. Emotions are fickle. See you guys next time. Bye.